The desk is clean. Time for a new project. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. And as I said at the beginning, it's time for a new project. And today, it's going to be the Revell 1/48 scale F-15C Eagle. If you watch my channel very much, you know I don't do much in the way of modern aircraft. However, I do like modern aircraft. Find them interesting. It's just I've always preferred World War II subjects. However, in this case, I find the F-15 to be quite interesting due to some things I've read online and so on. So this particular kit, I didn't buy it myself. My son actually had it and was going to build it, but he opted not to. So he gifted it to me so I could build it. So today I'm going to take a look at the kit and talk a little bit about what my plan is. All right, this particular boxing of this kit is kit number 85-5870 with a copyright of 2017. In looking at scale mates, the roots of this kit go back to the monogram release from 1979, new tool. Looks like new parts were added in 87. 98, we have new decals, Reeboks, and a model set which came with two aircraft, this one and a helicopter it looks like. Then in later in the 1990s, I guess, we have another new box. Then in 2004, we have a new box. And then finally, this version here, which includes new decals. So we'll look at those in a little bit. So first, let's take a look at the actual box itself. It's the usual modern Revell box. Has features on this edge here, 3 languages. Then it gives us a paint guide, and then some photos of the actual kit assembled. Nothing too exciting. It's a top opening box, which is very important for some people, which is kind of convenient, but you know, never a deal breaker for me. So that's the box. Let's crack it open and see what's inside. So inside we have instructions and plastic. Now this was in a plastic bag, but I took it out because I wanted to see something in reference to some comments people have made online about this aircraft, which I will get to again in a little bit. But yeah, it's just the usual stuff. So first we'll take a look at the instructions, and then we'll start going through the plastic. All right, first up, let's take a look at the instructions. Typical booklet type. It's kind of nice. One thing I do prefer, you know, I comment frequently about the type of box, whether it's an end opener or top opener, and not really being that big a deal for me because I usually get all my parts and hang them on peg hooks on the back of my desk here. But one thing that is nice is when you have instructions that are in booklet form as opposed to the map fold out type thing. So again, this one stapled, pretty nice. Typical instructions of just about every era. You have information on the aircraft here. And this is one of the things I want to bring up that made me interested in this particular aircraft once I started looking into it. It says here, and this is corroborated by other sources that I've read online, it has an exceptional record of 100 victories and no losses in air-to-air combat. That's pretty amazing. Anyway, just an aside. Read this before you begin, just some tips. Then we have paint guide. So the paints are indicated by letter, and these are the colors to be used. The only specifics it gives are for the gray and light gray. It gives the FS numbers here. Then it has decal application instructions. Then a legend here for all the symbols and what they mean. And then this is one thing that's kind of nice, and I wish more manufacturers did this. It used to be really common, at least in US manufactured kits. The part number and what the part actually is, because sometimes there are things, you know, especially if you don't have a lot of knowledge about a subject, you can learn a little bit if it's labeled. Instead of this weird looking part here, you can say, oh, this is the radar base, which is part number 22. So that is something that's kind of cool. So there's 2 pages of that. And it looks like, going off of this, not accounting for maybe duplicate parts, but there are 75 parts in this kit. Okay, then we get to page 1, or actually it's page 5, but step 1, which is like most aircraft kits, we have cockpit assembly and some of the front landing gear, more cockpit bits. Then it looks like we have a gun here, and then we start in with putting the fuselage parts together. Engine parts, and it just goes on. I'm not going to go in detail through all this, but not a whole lot going on in each step, which is kind of nice. Some modern kits can have a whole lot going on in each individual step, and it can get quite overwhelming, and it's easy to miss parts, especially if you're painting along the way. Then we have a pilot figure and a ground crew figure. Then we get into the front windscreen, and then some final assembly. So there's 8 assembly steps. Now each assembly step is kind of set up in sub-steps, but again, that just kind of makes it easy where it's not all just one big blow-up drawing. So kind of nice. And then we have the paint scheme here. F-15 or Oregon Air National Guard, 173rd Fighter Wing, Klamath Falls, Oregon. It gives the paint layout here, D, C, and I. Basically 3 colors on the external parts, if you're doing it in a basic way. And then we have decal placement, which is considered step 10. And then we have step 11, which is all of the 15 billion stencils. Actually, there's not 15 billion. The highest number I see on here is 59, but there are quite a few number 59s all over the place. So there's a lot of decals going on here, especially with the stencils. And then we have more stencils here, which is the underside of the aircraft. So that is the instructions. Again, copyright 2017. Next up, we have the decals. Now, pardon the glare on some parts of it, but it's just because of the way my lights shine. But this is, again, the Oregon Air National Guard. Now, these are some really big decals. Okay, these wing parts are in 3 segments. And this is all one big piece. This is one big piece. So, yeah, these are giant. However, for every person that has used this particular scheme that I've either read reviews or seen reviews on YouTube, apparently these decals are really, really nice. And they had no trouble getting these on the aircraft. So I don't know who prints them. It's not Cartograph, I don't think, because it sure doesn't say it. So I don't know if it's in-house or what, but they're really thin. Not much carrier film around the outside edges. Now, obviously, there's some in these parts here, but apparently they didn't lay down really well, and I've heard of no problems with them. And the printing on them looks really good. Everything seems to be in register. These Air National Guard decals here look really cool. Those look really nice, as does this one. Now there's a slight bit of texture to the decals, but if a person were to put a clear coat on afterward, it might kind of minimize that. I mean, I don't know how you can kind of feel the texture in comparison to the backing here, but you know, again, everything I've read about them, they're really good decals. However, I'm not using these decals. This is an aside. They come in the box on the bottom, just like this, with this parchment type paper over top to protect them. So that's kind of nice. I will be using these decals here, which my son bought so he could do the 194th Fighter Squadron, Fresno Air National Guard Base, California Air National Guard 2014. So Fresno's only a couple hours from here, and we've actually seen these aircraft on the tarmac in person, albeit through a fence and from a distance, but it's pretty cool. This is Bullseye Model Aviation, so they spelled that wrong. Printed in Italy. So we'll take a quick look at these decals. We're not going to go in depth, but I do want to take them out and kind of take a look at them. In the package, you get a stencil guide, which is pretty groovy. And boy, there's a lot of them. Now this one here is for the brown aggressor. Use black stencils. Mod Eagle scheme, use gray stencils. So this is the one we're going to be doing here. So we'll use the gray stencils on that. And it gives a little bit of information on the aircraft here, but just really nice looking color stencil instructions there, stencil guide. Then we have these two sheets here. So we have another Air National Guard scheme here, a Louisiana Air National Guard scheme here. Then we have the California Air National Guard, which is the one I'm doing. And then this one here, which is same time period, same fighter squadron, but different a different scheme going on there. So I don't know. I haven't done any research into that, but it's kind of interesting. So we got that, and then we have the cover page here, which shows all 4 of the schemes that are included in this set. Then we got more Oregon Air National Guard there. Then we've got all these here, same thing, just a bunch of Air National Guard. We've got Montana, Oregon, Florida, Missouri, Massachusetts. So there's a lot of stuff available in this set, way more than I thought, but we're sticking with California. So first off, let's look at the common decals here. So this is the ones that would be used on, I believe, on the brown aggressor version, and then these are the ones you'd use on the gray. So in looking at these, they seem pretty thin, everything in register, very nice crisp printing. So those all look really good. So there's that. And then we have, again, these come with these protective sheets over them. So So then we have Oregon, Fresno. So there's a lot of decals on here. And there's very, man, just very little carrier film on these. So I'm kind of eager to use these. I've never used the bullseye decals, but these look really nice. Man, there's a lot of nice color schemes. Boy, you could do a couple of these. You'd probably have to get some extra stencils or use the kit stencils, but you could do quite a few aircraft with just one set of decals. And that's one of the things I like with decal sets, is that you have multiple versions, so you can get multiple kits out of one set of decals. That's kind of a nice deal. I like that. But anyway, that's the decals for it, and that's the scheme, the California Air National Guard, that I will be using. So let's take a look at some of the plastic. Okay, so in this version of this kit, and I guess with all versions, but they do not label the individual sprues by letter or some kind of indicator like that. It's just a sprue with numbered parts. So there'll be a little bit of a hunt going on from time to time, but let's go ahead and take a look at the first sprue here. And this is the lower part of the fuselage. I think it's the lower part. Is it the lower part? No, this is the upper, I believe. I don't know. See, I'm just not familiar enough with these aircraft. I think this is the lower, maybe. But anyway, so here's the deal. The reason this one was out of the bag is because some people that have built this kit have complained that the this large piece was warped, and it made assembly a bit of a struggle. However, when I open mine, it does not seem to be warped. It looks quite flat and symmetrical, so I should be okay there. So this is the fuselage part here. You got the nose here, some of the radar stuff, control, the instrument panel, which is all raised detail, and then the seat here. Control stick. The control stick, that looks really nice. There's a lot of detail going on with this thing. And on this part right here, I don't see much in the way of flash. So, I mean, I'll have to get to the end to see. Now, here's one of the things that people like to complain about, and it's kind of lame, but this is Revell Incorporated, 1979 China, and that's on the outside detail of the aircraft, and that's just a bummer. But, you know, that's the way they used to do it, so I will have to sand that off and remove that. Then you have it here as well, 79. So why you would have it here and here, I don't know. But there you go. Molded in China. Yeah, but again, I don't see much in the way of flash or anything, so that's pretty cool. I'm digging that, and this is kind of nice. It comes with this like little nameplate here, F-15 Eagle. You could incorporate that into a base if you wanted. I may do that just to do it. I've never done that before. We got some, I just went blank. I can't remember. This is the rails or whatever you call them where ordnance is mounted to. Now, one thing to note, this is raised detail. It's not engraved or recessed. Which for a lot of people, it's a bummer, but that's just the way they used to do kits. And honestly, I don't really have a problem with it, because it's just what it is, and there's ways to work with it. And sometimes it might even be better than recessed detail, because that can be overdone sometimes. But like these vents or grills, whatever they are, they're really fine. They look really nice. They'll take a panel line wash or a wash really well to accentuate that detail. It's very, very fine, that detail. So yeah, looks pretty good. So that's the first sprue. Next sprue here, we've got the cockpit tub right here. See, and again, I'm not familiar with modern aircraft, so a lot of the nomenclature I'm not familiar with, so I won't be able to talk. Now, here's something. Apparently, there was a problem with the exhaust. Now, there's a bit of flash inside of there, but nothing that can't be taken care of easily. Now, here's something some people may not like, but man, I'm thankful that all these little fins on these missiles are molded in place. Some of them come separate, and boy, they can be hard to get lined up properly. It's going to take a little bit of cleanup. There's some ejector pin marks on these fins back here, but that's just all basic stuff that's fairly easy to take care of. We got the pilot figure here, which a pilot figure, the detail on him is really good. The seam lines, you know, they're not too bad. Nothing that can't be easily done. I haven't decided if I'm going to put him in the cockpit or not. This one I am going to do a gear down aircraft. I mean, I don't even know if you can do it gear up, but I'm doing it gear down for sure. The landing gear is really nicely detailed. And again, not much in the way of flash. So looks pretty good. So, and then you have this large tank here, which looks a little bit of flash on the end here, but again, that's, you know, they're gonna have sand all along that seam anyway, so it won't be bad. So that is that sprue there. Then we have this one here, which again, I'm not sure if that's the upper or lower. I'm gonna say lower, because I'm gonna assume the landing gear come out here. Man, no, maybe not. I don't know. Sorry, folks. Crew figure here, or ground crew figure here, again, nicely detailed. I mean, if you wanted to, you know, you people, if you watch my channel, you know how I am with figures. I always have good intentions, but I may incorporate this dude into a base. We'll see. But again, the detail is really nice, all on the side, raised detail, of course, but it does look pretty decent. Again, not much in the way of flash. These vents, grills, and stuff like that all look really nice. So, yep, that should all paint up well. And we have the wing control surfaces here, and the vertical stabilizers. I think these are part of the intake. More rails for the ordnance. An arrestor hook here. So the wing detail looks good. Hopefully cleanup won't be too bad. Don't want to destroy too much of the raised detail. Again, not much in the way of flash. Now there are some mold seam lines on the edges, but you know, that's part and parcel for kits of this vintage. But it looks like these panels that go here are in natural panel line places for the most part, so that's good. So yeah, that's the fourth sprue. The final gray plastic sprue is this one here. I'm not sure if this was a later addition to the kit or if it's correction or what. I've read stuff that the exhaust cans, or whatever you call them, there was some problems with the original and they replaced them at some point, maybe in that one new parts edition back when, 87 or whatever. I don't know. Again, I don't know much about these aircraft, so these parts look pretty good to me. I'm sure there's aftermarket stuff for this, but I want to keep this one for the most part out of the box. And then finally, we have the clear parts. So looks like some landing lights maybe. Another little part here, not sure what that is. Then we have the front windscreen and the canopy itself. Now the nice thing about this is there's not going to be much in the way of masking, because there's just a ridge here and one here that'll be ultra easy to mask off. And unlike some modern kits, there's no seam down the middle here. And you know, looking at it from a distance, yeah, things look wavy, but up close, it's not too bad. Again, this is old technology, so might be a deal breaker for some, but this is going to be open, so it should be okay. But very clear, and no scratch marks on it, which is nice because it came packed in a little plastic bag. So there you go, that's the box contents. As far as my plan for the kit, again, I'm going to do the California Air National Guard based out of Fresno. I had intended on doing it in the gray, but I'm going to kind of look into that tan and brown, just to kind of look into it, but I'm most likely going to go with the gray. Everything looks cool. Now, some of the things that I have read about this kit that could be a problem or a challenge, let's say, is where this part meets the part that goes here. Apparently there's some gaps, stuff like that. Gaps like that are fairly easy to fix for the most part, so I'll be going through this and talking about that kind of stuff as we go, because my plan is to do a step-by-step on this one. I'm really going to give it a valiant attempt to keep each video at a manageable level, and try and make it easy to watch, but yet giving plenty of information on what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and why I'm doing it. So we'll see what happens. As for the supplies I'm going to use, it's the usual stuff. Tamiya extra thin cement, got some super glues, which I probably won't need. Got this clear canopy glue here, which I may not need. I may be able to use just regular model cement, like Tamiya extra thin, to glue the clear parts onto the gray plastic, just because of the way it is, the way that it goes together. Paints, I'm going to be, for all my airbrush paints, I will be using SMS paints, I think, for the most part. I may use some MRP, both of those acrylic lacquers. For any hand brushing, I will be using Vallejo, and yeah, pretty much Vallejo model color for brushing. So anyway, that is the kit that's coming up. Hopefully you'll follow along. I'll release periodic updates, and we'll just move right along through this, and it should be fun. I haven't done much in the way of modern aircraft, as I've said earlier, but I'm kind of looking forward to this one. So big thanks to my son, Skylar. Thanks a lot for giving me this kit. He was going to build it himself, and you know, things change, and the amount of room you have to do things changes. So again, thanks, Mick. Appreciate the kit, dude. I'll try and do it justice. So that's the end of the introduction video for the Revell 148 scale F-15C Eagle in California Air National Guard colors. So if you like this video, if you want to see more of this particular series or any of my other builds, hit the subscribe button. If you have any hints, tips, questions, concerns, any experience with this kit, put them in the comments section down below. Stay tuned for more episodes, and as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.